Good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking time today and joining us to participate in this session. Sorry about the beginning of the session. It was a bit of the technical issue, but now everything is settled. So, and also I hope all of you have been safe and staying at home during COVID-19 situation. Today, we're going to share with you some info about COVID-19 initiative for business migrant and also immigration update by Queensland Government. Before that, also, I would like to have some gentle reminder. All the participants will be on mute, but if it is not, please put yourself under mute. And during the session, we advise if you can suggest actually if you can put it on the speaker view. So a speaker view, it will make it bigger and you can easily see all the slides and the detail and the speakers when they are talking. You are more than welcome to ask any question during the session. You just need to type it in the chat box. A chat box is, you can find it bottom of your screen. There is a chat, press on it and then type your question. We will catch up as much as we can end of the session. And for those who cannot, we will come back to you again after that, after the session. So today, actually, our agenda is about the economic response to coronavirus by Australian government and business innovation and investment visa for migrant. So now I would like to introduce to you our two speakers. We do have Desmond Ang. Desmond Ang is actually licensed advisor from Australia and New Zealand. He is a managing director and the founder of Global Migration Solution. He is a certified chartered accountant with PwC, and also he won top 100 Global Migration Agency CEO 2019, and following by that in 2020 among the top 50 Global Migration Agency with, of course, 20 years of experience in migration business and investment matter. And also today we do have a special guest from Queensland Government, Marney Richardson. She is a senior project officer for business and skill migration, trade and investment, Queensland Government. Without further ado, I would pass to Desmond Ang to keep going on the webinar. Desmond?
Yep, thank you, Sam. Hi everyone, good morning. And good afternoon to you if you are in Australia. I believe all of you are safe and well at the comfort of your home. The current lockdown is crucial for us to curb the pandemic together. Nonetheless, do take times for self-reflection during this period and make some plan for the future. Now, global migration has been around for 16 years. And I started this company 2004. Our principle is to advocate the right migration practices for our clients, our partners, ourselves, and our brand. And I'm moving to the next slide, just give me a moment. We carry ourselves as a premium migration advisory firm, and we have helped a total of more than 12,000 families successfully over the years. The only reason why we are able to maintain a high successful records is because of the stringent and careful due diligence checks before we take you on as a client. Those with GMS went through it and knew how thorough I am. One of the highlight and milestone for us is last year, we were awarded top 50 Global Migration Agency CEO by U Global magazine in Los Angeles. to recognize the good practices among the top 50 migration experts. Today, we have a support office across 4 countries in Asia Pacific. Our main office is in Malaysia. We have an office in Singapore, Melbourne, and Vietnam. Now, we are specialized in Australia and New Zealand all this year. And over the time, we have also expanded our services to cover the Portugal, United States, as well as the Malaysia migration program. And these are the 2 key staff of global migration that I would like to introduce to all of you. His name is James Allen Hall, and he is a licensed migration advisor of global migration solutions. He is also a certified trainer for migration advisor. Now, he's so well experienced enough. If you are a licensed advisor and you wish to be trained, you can get certified by him. And Audrey Anthony is our associate director with more than 10 years of the experience in skill and family migration. And these are the staff member, the rest of the staff member at Global Migration Solutions. Now, being a licensed immigration advisor, we are registered with the Migration Agent Registration Australia. And my advice to you is when you deal with the licensed immigration advisor, always make sure their license is up to date, and you can do so by checking with the MARA online. Now, why Australia? Being in the migration scene for the last 16 years, and I can clearly tell you, Australia is the top choice among our clients, especially the high net worth individual. For 4 years in a row, Australia beat all other countries among the high net worth individual. And let me take you to the next slide to see the reason why. Now, I believe education is one of the main push factor for many parents. Australia's education system is very different. It is not just purely academic. It also makes you become street smart. And Australia has been winning world's most livable city years after years. And there are many factors that contribute to it. Yeah. It all depends on the political stability, economically stability, the infrastructure, the crime rate, the healthcare support, and many other reasons. And here you might be saying, you might be wondering, you know, a big city like Bangkok, London, New York, it is livable, and why is it that, you know, they are not in the top 10 of the world livable city? Yeah. And here, being a PR in Australia, you have the access to the healthcare support. You generally will get a free healthcare support from the Australian government. Yeah. And clients generally find the housing price is very reasonable, relatively reasonable as compared to other cities like London and New York. Yeah. And Australia is a country with diverse culture because 7 out of the 10 people that you see on the street are migrants themselves. So as a new migrant, you adapt to the environment and the culture very quickly, and you don't feel an alien, you know, when you move to a countries like Australia. But of course, the work-life balance is also equally important. When I speak to clients, whether they are single or they are family, they often the time, they share, you know, their experience of after the move to Australia, how they started to enjoy the work-life balance as compared to, you know, their home country. Now, how Australian government responds to the coronavirus? As you know, in the calm water, every ship has a good captain. And only in the rough water is a true test of a real captain. And let us look at how the Australian government has done for the people. Well, first of all, let's look at this data. And as of yesterday, there were 6,703 cases. And it is such a relief and fortunate to see 5,387 has since recovered. Yeah, majority of the cases were infected between 20th of March to the 10th of April. And since then, the cases has been well controlled by the government. And certainly the government is competent enough to handle such a huge pandemic, because any delay of their response would have cost more life. The Australian government has been very foresighted, and they responded quickly to impose the travel ban. There are 3 stages of the implementation. First of all, on the 20th of March, all non-residents in general, if you are not a PR or you are not a citizen, you are not supposed or you are not allowed to enter the country. Immediately 5 days after that, on the 25th of March, the government stopped all PR holders and citizens from leaving the country. The fact that they know very well, by stopping the front door without putting a close to the back door, it is not going to help to curb this virus from spreading further. Yeah. And those who are allowed to enter the country, Australia, after 30th of March, you are required to go through a 14 days quarantine under the cost of the government at the designated accommodation that has been arranged by the government. And if you are traveling, for example, from Queensland to Western Australia, you are required to go through an approval through the Australian police prior to your travel. Otherwise, you are not allowed to enter the states. And this is the interstate travel control. At this moment, there's no time frame on how long the travel ban is going to last. And other than curbing the virus, the Australian government acknowledges at times of the crisis, the government must step up the efforts to support the people. And there are so many support packages available to the people at all levels, whether you are a business owner or you are an individual. Well, if you are a business owner, let's look at the support for business owner. If you are a business migrant who has already started running a business in Australia, and the government came out with these support packages to help SME, and of which this includes those with a turnover of below 50 million to improve their cash flow. So if you are eligible, you will receive between 20,000 to 100,000 of credits to use towards the payment of your quarterly taxes that is needed to be paid. Because when you run a business in Australia, every quarter, you are submitting these called business activity statements. And your accountants will compute how much of the taxes that you have collected and to be paid to the government. And these support packages is going to use towards offsetting the taxes that you are paying to the government. So as a business owner myself, I must admit that this effort from the Australian government is such a great help during a challenging time like this. And if you employ any apprentice or trainees, the government will also subsidize 50% of their salary over the next 9 months. And there's also a support called instant asset write-off. The government generally encourages the business to expand further during these periods of times to stimulate the economies. If you were to incur capital expenditure, such as buying equipment, fixture, you can write off up to 150,000 within this fiscal year. And how does that help you? Because the instant write-off simply help to reduce your business profits, thus reduce taxes, thus improve your cash flow further. Also, if your business unfortunately is experiencing some hardship and the government has increased the threshold to allow the creditors, before the creditors issuing you a statutory demand. And that threshold also applies to those creditors who has an intention to initiate the bankruptcy proceeding. That is to ensure you are well taken care and your business is, is safe. Right. Now, above are some of the support packages available for business owner, but of course there are a lot more available. Now let's look at how the government help the people at different level. If you are an employee and you might be entitled to the JobKeeper payment, your employer will receive 1,500 fortnightly on your behalf, and this is going to use towards paying your salary. This is to ensure your job security and to improve the cash flow of the business owner. The government has set aside 130 billion over the next 6 months, and this is expected to benefit 6,000 employees over the times. Next, let's look at what is this called income support for an individual. So in Australia, as you know, this is a country, as a PR, you have the access to the welfare support. So if you are a single mom, or you are a widow, or you are not well, or you are a student, you are entitled to claim 550 fortnightly over the next 6 months. Okay. Same to the export also goes to pensioner and concession cards holder. The first payment of 750 was paid, and the second payment is taking place in July 2020 in a few months' time. If you need to access to more cash, and you can choose to withdraw your superannuation up to 10,000 by this June, and there will be another up to 10,000 that you can choose to withdraw next fiscal year, which is right after July this year. Yeah. And let's look at the temporary visa holder. So a lot of you might be on the temporary visa status or provisional visa holder. If you are a TOTR holder, like a student or on working holiday visa, or some of the skilled migrants on the transition to become a PR, I am here to assure you that you are not being left out. The government has funded the Red Cross to provide foods, medicines, and shelter over the next 6 months to those who experience the hardship. The government has also set aside 2.4 billion to protect the community. This goes to PR, citizen, as well as the temporary residence visa holder. For example, if you are students and you suspected, with the infection, you can get the testing and the treatments. So to make sure the accessibility is there, the government even formed out a WhatsApp channel to make sure the people or the community has an access to the facility and the help easily. So these are so much, there are so much more packages available for people. If you think that you are entitled to any of these, please contact the respective authority to find out the requirements and the arrangement. So I have been in touch with the clients in Australia to find out how they are and whether they are safe and well. So in general, they feel positive and secure being in Australia. I guess for those who is exploring Australia or anywhere else, you want to be sure you are taking your families to a country with a competent government, and not only that, a country with an empathetic government who really understand and needs who understand the needs of the people and take good care of them during a crisis like this. Yeah, and these are the updates from me on the COVID and the government efforts. And I would like to share with you very quickly today the business and investment migration pathway, although there are a few other pathways available, but today we are going to be looking into the business and investment. Now, under these visa programs, generally there are options available for you to become a provisional visa holder, and sometimes you might heard that as a temporary residence. Yeah, there are also visa pathway for you to become a permanent residence or a PR right away. Let's look into what are the options available under the provisional pathway. So we have this visa called Subclass 188A, Business Innovation. For this is applicable for those who meet the requirements and who has an intention to set up a business in Australia once the visa is granted. Yeah. And we also have what visa called Subclass 188B. This is for the migrants who has no intention to set up a business in Australia, but to invest into the government designated bond. Yeah, and this is where investment is secured and protected by the government over a period of 4 years, and the money will be returned back to you. We also have visa subclass 188C, and this is called significant investor visa. This is for those who is investing into compliant investment, and you have very little times to spend in Australia, because under this visa class, generally, you are required to spend very minimum number of days in Australia. And we also have the direct PR pathway, which is the 132 business, significant business history visa pathway. And also this visa would require you to run a business in Australia. So in short, what I would like to highlight and emphasize here is Australia has such a highly regulated programs. In general, you as a migrant, you are not required to invest ahead of the time before the visa is approved or before the visa is granted. That says you do not need to be worried about your investment being at risk and not knowing whether or not your visa is going to be approved by the Australian government. And this is just a quick comparison between the two business pathway of 132A, the direct PR, and the 188, of which there are certain basic criteria for you to determine if you can apply for this visa. And I will not be running through this one by one clearly, because I would like to suggest you to make contact with us and for us to be able to assess and determine your eligibility clearly. Like I have mentioned from the beginning, our successful rate and our successful records, the only reason why we are able to do so is because we make sure you meet the requirements and you are eligible before we take you on as a client. As for the investment pathway, there are two options, 188B and 188C. Just to give you a comparison, one would require to invest 1.5 million into the government bond, while the other one would require to invest 5 million in returns for a very minimum number of days to spend in Australia. And this is a quick comparisons that I would like to share with all of you here. And so that brings me to the end of my presentation. And I would like to pass it on to our special guest, Miss Marney, and later on, Cynthia Chen, from the Australian government. And thank you, everybody, and pleasure sharing this with you over the webinar. And now let me pass it over to Cynthia and Marney. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Okay. So, hello and welcome. My name is Marney Richardson, and I'm a Senior Project Officer at Business and Skilled Migration Queensland, which is a business unit of Trade and Investment Queensland, which is part of the Queensland Government. So thank you very much, Desmond, for your introduction and excellent and thorough presentation today. And I'd like to really thank you and the team, your wonderful team, for organising this webinar today. It's a real pleasure to be here. And today I'm going to speak on a variety of different topics. So I'm going to give you some updates on our business program. I'm going to give you an overview on the COVID-19 situation here in Queensland. And I'm also going to briefly touch on Queensland Government support packages. And then I'm going to provide some information on the criteria of the main visas in the Queensland Business Program. So, who are we and what do we do? As I mentioned, Business and Skilled Migration Queensland is part of the Queensland Government, and we're responsible for visa nomination. So we have a long-standing agreement with the Commonwealth Government to nominate for business visas. So that's the permanent business visa, the 132 visa, and the provisional 188 visas, which is what I'll be talking about today. We also nominate for some skilled visas. So we nominate for the subclass 190, which is a permanent visa, and the 491, which is a regional visa. Okay, so let's have a look at what is happening today, the 27th of April 2020. So as Desmond mentioned, of today, there are 6,711 confirmed cases in Australia. Unfortunately, we have had 83 deaths from COVID-19, but most of these cases and deaths have been in New South Wales. The current rate of infection in New South Wales is 3,002. In Queensland, we have had 1,033 cases and 6 deaths. However, at the moment, there are only 100 active cases in Queensland. We've had 3 cases in the last 24 hours, new cases, but last week we recorded 0 cases twice. So because of this, some restrictions are being eased from midnight this Friday, which is good news. So I think Desmond already touched on the points that, the government did act quickly. There are international travel restrictions, and there's also Queensland border restrictions. So another response of the Queensland Government was to close essential businesses. So businesses such as cafes and restaurants, retail businesses, entertainment venues, they have all been closed. So that has affected business and skilled migrants and of course Australians. But there are a lot of support packages that are available to support those businesses and those people. Unfortunately, the tourism and education sectors have been hard hit, but hopefully, they will be able to bounce back once all the restrictions have been lifted. As Desmond really looked at, we do have a very stable government here in Australia. We have a responsible Queensland government. And I think the reason why we've been really successful in flattening the curve is because Australians are also very good citizens as well. We do like to follow the rules. So we have been social distancing, keeping 1.5 metres away from each other and staying at home as much as possible. So I just want to briefly touch on, other support packages that the Queensland Government specifically has offered individuals and businesses. So in regards to households, there has been $300 million allocated. So we are able to get a subsidy on our electricity bills and also our water bills. There's also $2.5 billion set aside for businesses. So basically there's a $500 million fund for workers who have lost their job. They're able to access this to get further training, to basically train them up to fill critical industries such as healthcare, agriculture, food production, transport, cleaning and mining. And in Queensland and across Australia, employers are required to pay payroll tax. So at the moment, the Queensland Government is giving SMEs a 3-month payroll tax holidays, and it's also possible to get a further 6-month deferral on that. There's also been another $1.2 billion of state revenue that is being put aside for health. So that's being put into fever clinics, into emergency department capacity, acute care services, and so on. Okay, so this slide just gives you an indication of, how Australia is comparing to the rest of the world in the numbers of COVID-19 cases and how we are actually flattening the curve. So as you can see, at the moment, it's clearly happening, so that's really good news. Okay, so let's move on to an update on our Business Innovation and Investment Program. So we are currently scheduled to open the business program in July 2020 with limited nomination allocation, but that's still to be confirmed by Home Affairs. At the moment, our business program is closed. It closed in December 2019 due to our nomination allocation being filled. But every financial year, we receive new allocation from Home Affairs, and that's determined by Home Affairs. This year, because of the COVID-19 situation, our nomination allocation will be announced in October 2020. And you may or may not be aware that this business program has actually recently gone under a review by Home Affairs. So key stakeholders, including state and territory governments, were invited to provide a submission in regards to thresholds, in regards to how we can change the program. And they were looking to introduce these new changes. It could have been on thresholds and other criteria, but because of the whole COVID-19 situation, that will be implemented at a later date. So that could be good news for you. However, just keep in mind that BSNQ may introduce Queensland criteria changes in July 2020. We may put our own varying thresholds on the business criteria, and we'll announce those prior to the program opening anyway. And we normally do that via, our migration agent partners and also on the website as well. Okay, so I'm just going to briefly look at the key sectors in Queensland. What are business migrants investing in? What are our key export areas? So to start off, food and agribusiness is a major sector. In Queensland, 88% of our land is agricultural land. We have the largest agricultural land of any Australian state and territory. So, through this crisis, we don't need to worry about food security at all. We have more than enough food here in Australia. And in 2017 and 18, our agricultural export industry was worth over $10 billion. So, our main kind of agricultural areas are meat and livestock, like, very high quality beef, fruits and vegetables, grains, cereals, sucrose and seafood. So it's really quite diverse. Mining is still the biggest export sector for Queensland, and we are the largest seaborne exporter of metallurgical coal in the world. The industry was worth $38.8 billion in 2017-18, And there has been a great interest, or more of an interest in renewable energies as well, such as solar. A lot of our business migrants are very interested in this area. So, as I mentioned, unfortunately, tourism and international education is taking a really big hit during this time, but we still remain a state with world-class universities, as Desmond touched on, and we're a world-class tourism destination. It's absolutely beautiful in Queensland. If you've never visited here, please come and do so as soon as you can, as soon as it's safe to do so. We have 200 national parks, we have 5 World Heritage Areas, including the beautiful Great Barrier Reef. And at some point, of course, we'll be able to welcome tourists back to our beautiful state and attractions. So we also have developing health and knowledge industries, and construction is a major contributor to the Queensland economy. And we have many major projects underway across the state. Okay, so let's now dive into the key criteria of the main visas of the Queensland Business Program. So the first visa is a permanent visa. It's the Business Talent Visa, subclass 132. And this visa is really for high caliber, self-made entrepreneurs. So you do need to have a successful business background to be able to apply for this visa. There's an age restriction, so you need to be under 55 years of age. You can invest in a new or existing business, and you need to submit a business proposal. So the investment threshold is $1 million into a new or existing business, and you also need to transfer $500,000 into settlement costs. So, such as like buying a house, for example. The most attractive thing about this visa is, of course, that you're a permanent resident straight away. Okay, the next visa is a provisional visa. It's the Business Innovation and Investment Visa, the innovation stream, the 188 visa. Again, you still need to be under 55 years of age. How this differs is that it's a points-tested visa. So you need to meet a points test of 65 points. So you would be assessed on criteria such as age, English, qualifications, business or investment experience, net personal assets and business turnover. You still need to submit a business proposal, but the thresholds, the investment thresholds are a lot less. So you just need to have $800,000 of assets to transfer to Queensland, and you need to have a minimum of $200,000 to invest in a business. And that's the absolute minimum. Most migrants coming in on this visa, they do invest, much more than that, 500 plus on this visa. So that's a very minimum amount. Okay, the next visa is another stream of the 188 visa. It is the investor stream. So you still need to be under 55 years of age. You still need to have a successful business or investment background, and you need to meet the points test, the 65 points mark. I think the most attractive thing about this visa is that you will invest or need to invest $1.5 million, but that's an investment into Queensland Treasury Corporation bonds. So that's a very safe investment that's backed by the Queensland Government. You do receive a return on that, and after that 4-year period, you will receive your money back. We also require an investment or an asset transfer of an additional $750,000 into your settlement costs. So, again, you can use that for a house or for your children's university fees, for example. With this visa, you need to reside in Queensland for at least 2 years out of a 4-year period. Now, finally, this is the most flexible visa available, and however, there is a higher investment required of $5 million. The most attractive thing about this visa is that there is no minimum or maximum age. Well, there's a minimum age, probably 18, but you could be 80 years old and apply for this visa as long as you meet the health requirements. What you would need to do is invest the $5 million into managed funds, and this is an investment framework set by Austrade, and that's listed there. And there's specific companies in Australia that do focus on this visa. So, you may be able to research that, or your migration agent can direct you to who they would recommend. Another very attractive thing about this visa is that the residency requirements are much more flexible. So if you're the main visa applicant, you only need to reside in Australia for 40 days a year over that 4-day period, so 160 days in total. If you can't even do that, you can swap that with your spouse, although they will need to stay here longer than that period. Okay, so I'd also briefly like to focus on the top industry sectors for the 132 and the 188 innovation visas. So what are business migrants investing in? So the number one area that the business migrants are interested in is construction. So this is property development. And then the next area is the wholesale area. So that's export. So that could be agricultural products, food products, processed food products, that kind of thing. Then the third area at 10% is accommodation and food services. So, we have some migrants that come in that like to buy hotels, like to buy resorts. Sometimes they can be tens of millions of dollars. They can invest a lot of money, then they renovate it, and then obviously they operate that business. So obviously there's a wide variety of investments that migrants do make, which are all listed there. Okay, I also just want to touch on some other support that the Queensland Government offers new business migrants. So it's possible for you to make an appointment. At the moment, we're doing them online. If you want to talk to a case officer about your business idea prior to applying for your visa. So, we can give you some guidance on whether that is a good idea, whether that will work in Queensland, whether you've done the right research. Then when you arrive on shore, you can make another appointment to see us. At that point in time, once you've done some further market research, your ideas may change a little bit. So again, we're there to support you and offer you some advice about what you have in mind for your business. We do other things as well, such as holding settlement information seminars for business migrants, basically to provide details on what they need to do to successfully progress from provisional to permanent visas. And we do things like invite professionals such as lawyers and accountants to talk about how to successfully set up a business in Queensland, things like tax, employee considerations, and so on. We also invite successful business migrants to talk about their migration journeys and a whole host of other community support groups such as police liaison representatives. Okay, so this one here was one that we held in September last year. It was for Mandarin speakers, and there was about 100 business migrants that attended that event. Okay, some other things we do is host investment and export roadshows. So we have migrants on shore that they already have their business, they're already very successful, and now they're looking for their second or third investment. So we set up these roadshows and take them to the regional areas to showcase the industry capabilities of the area and showcase some possible investments they may want to invest in. So this was an example, again, in September last year. So we organised 40 business migrants, investors and migration agents to go to this area, and we took them to a lot of different farms. So we took them to strawberry farms, sweet potato farms, macadamia nut farms, and so on, and a whole host of other industries and companies. And there were some immediate outcomes. There was some very high caliber Vietnamese business migrants that were looking at investing $4 million in a chicken farm in Harvey Bay, and another investor looking at property development in Bundaberg, and also some technology on a strawberry farm there. Okay, so this brings me to the end of my presentation. Thanks very much for attending today, everyone. And if you would like to find more out about the BSNP programs, please take a look at our website. So the website's listed there, migration.queensland.gov.au. We've also got a Facebook page, Migration Queensland, and a Twitter page at Queensland Migration. So I will now hand back to Desmond for a few more details regarding how to discuss your migration options with global migration. And my colleague Cynthia Chen and I will be online for a short Q&A session following this. So stay safe and healthy, everyone, and I hope to see you in our beautiful Sunshine State someday soon. Thanks again, and over to you, Desmond.
Hi, thank you, Marnie. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for your time. I hope all of you find this informative. I hope you guys can see me, and this is a new way of interacting with each other and engage with each other. And Marnie, would you like to just stop the screen share and pass it back to me? Thank you, Marnie. And yeah, let us move back to the last part of this session, of this webinar, which is the Q&A session. And Sam, would you like to take over? Sam?
Yes. So Desmond and Marnie and Cynthia, there is a lot of questions here. Just want to share with everyone again that if you want to, if you have any question, please go ahead and write it in the chat box. We will still catch up with those after the webinar, but we are going to select some, Desmond, and then let me get one. Okay, the one that I see is the most, let's go with this. Desmond, I think this is good for you. They're asking if with this current market, and then this year businesses will be lower. So during the COVID-19, we are sure that the businesses is not so good. And is this affecting my application?
Okay, right, thank you. Well, this is a good answer. This is a good question. For those who has already filed their application with the Department of the Immigration, so in any circumstances, and if your business unfortunately is affected by the current COVID situation, you are fine. Because when you file an application, the immigration will look at the historical performance to determine your eligibility, and any change of circumstances subsequent to the visa application doesn't impact you. And I would like to also highlight for those who has yet submitting the application, or who has yet initiated the application submission. In general, if you are referring to the turnover, because just now Sam mentioned the business is, your question is business is going to be affected, and here I suppose you are referring to the turnover. If you worry about turnover being affected this year, the answer is when we look at your eligibility, we are going to pick the turnover over the last 4 years, and whichever 2 years that is the best. So if let's say this year, 2019 or 2020 is going to be badly affected, And assuming you are submitting the application next year or this year, we do have the last 4 years to decide on which are the best 2 years. So given the current scenario, if let's say you are initiating your application, let's say 4 years down the road, yes, then potentially it is going to be impacting your application with a lower turnover. Yeah. And I hope this answers your question. Thank you. Sam?
Okay, so the next one would be for, I think it's more relevant if Marney can, okay, just give me a second. Okay, Marney, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah. Okay, so the next question I think is more relevant. So there are few people asking if what would be the changes will look like in July?
You mean for the Queensland nomination program?
Yes, correct.
At this stage, we can't confirm what kind of criteria will change, but we're looking towards to finalize our new criteria. So we'll make an announcement on the website and also through BSMQ newsletter or other social media. But the trend would be we push for investment into real regional Queensland. We may increase some investment levels such as 132 visa, significant business history, or 188 visa, business innovation stream. But the details are yet to be finalized. Because currently, compared with other state government, Queensland requirement for investment level is relatively low. But you know, this BIP program, business innovation investment visa program, has been existing for nearly 10 years. So it's a time for us to review the investment level, whether it's you know, fit into the current economic environment and also the financial capabilities for investment in Queensland, and what's our real demand for investment across Queensland, and also the priority sectors for investment. I can give you an example. I think some of your Malaysia clients, maybe not just your global migration, some other Malaysia clients, if they apply for 132 visa, significant business history, they would like to come here to invest in property development. Of course, we can't limit where you want to invest. You can decide where you want to invest. But we found that there's a certain pattern. Some people, they have no business background in property development, but they just feel, you know, property development, I get a block of land, it's tangible assets, I feel safe with my investment. So they just want to rush into this kind of type of investment. But they did not realize the property development business in Australia, in Queensland, is very different from what you have been doing in Malaysia or in other countries. And we often would like you to have a local business partner, or you have some relevant business background, you know, construction or property development, real estate in your home country. You don't come here with no knowledge about what's going on here. Then in the end, you will get stuck there. We have so many situations happen with other clients, and we found it's quite a big drama for them in the end, because for property development, even you get a block of land before you come here, you need to get the council approval. That takes a very long time. So if you don't know the regulation here very well, you don't know the industry here very well, don't rush into this kind of business investment without good research or without a good business partner. So that's my personal advice to some of your clients who are very keen for property development. We also have some clients that they initially apply for 188 visa, business innovation stream. They also want to invest in property development. We stopped doing that about 2 years, because we found the property development business takes such a long time and require large capital investment. It's not suitable for people who want to apply for 188 visa innovation stream, because it's more for small business owners, you know, for small capital investment. different categories, they are suitable for people with different business background or different, business ideas. So that we want to, as an agent, you might give your clients a good guidance, or your clients should think about this very thoroughly and make a good research before they come to us with a business proposal. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Cynthia. This is a good piece of advice for sure, because I think Asians generally, when they think about the investment, they wanted to make sure that they are investing into some form of the physical assets, and that's where the property development comes into the picture.
Even for property development, there's a lot of other property development, not just residential development.
Right.
A lot of people come here, they want to invest in apartments.
Yes.
Or what's called the townhouse development. If we have enough financial capabilities, or you have this kind of background, you can do this kind of type investment. But we also want you to look at the other area for property development. You can look at the industrial parks or a regional area or shopping center. If you have money, you can buy a rundown shopping center and renovate and upgrade the facility, or like aged care facilities or child care centers. So there's a commercial development you can do, not just residential property development. Because currently in Brisbane and Gold Coast, apartments, they are oversupplied. So you don't want to go into a sector which the market is not promising. You put all the money in and then turn out you can't make money. We want to come here, make a business investment which is successful and profitable. The other issue is some people, they want to do property development, but actually they don't have as much money. They only can look at a 5 million investment, which we think is too small for property development. We want property development, you look at large scale projects, at least 10 million. So that's why you may have to have a business partner or suitable for 132 visa applicants.
Thank you, Cynthia.
So,
Sam, is there any other question?
Issue we have come close.
Sorry. Okay, so there is one more that Cynthia or Marney maybe want to address this one as well. They are asking if to get the nomination, what are the reasons Queensland government will not approve my application?
I think that's more case by case. Some people think they did not get approval. They have to tell me what's happened. We can't tell the generally, because if we actually don't reject application very often. We give clients opportunity to readjust their proposal if we're not happy with it. Most time, the clients change their business ideas and put forward amended business proposal. So it's very unusual we reject it straight away. We give the agents or their clients opportunity to rethink about this proposal if we're not happy with it. There could be some issue with the market research, For instance, some people, they say that I want to come here to do renovation service, building construction service. But they're not aware, if they don't have a license, it's very difficult to start this business. We have a client from UK, they speak very good English. They have been doing construction for 20 years. But when they come here, because they don't have a license in Australia, Australia don't recognize license from other countries. You still have to get a new license yourself, or you have a business partner who has a license, who's happy to partner with you. But the most time in Queensland, for instance, people already have a builder license. They can do the business themselves. Why do they have to partner with a foreigner? So unless you have very good friends, you know very well that you have good relationship, so they help you and have a joint venture set up so you can do business together. Otherwise, if you don't have license, it's very hard for you to employ someone who has license to work for you, because the cost for hiring someone with license will cost you a lot of money.
Well, just to add on.
Yes, for you to get a builder's license. You need a 2-year experience in Australia or in Queensland before you can get a builder's license.
Thank you, Cynthia. And just to add on to what Cynthia had just said, well, it is unusual to have a nomination not going through successfully. And when you speak to us, one of our role being a licensed immigration advisor is to also share with you whether or not your business idea is going to be workable. And we also introducing you the experienced business consultant to assist you with the respective market research. And for your records, all the application that we have submitted through the Queensland government all this while, we have 100% successful. So we have never come across any cases where it has been refused or not acceptable by the Queensland government. Yeah, so Sam, I pass it back to you. I think we are running out of time, and can we just move on to question? Any other question quickly?
There is one more question, Desmond, I think is more related to you. So they are asking if I don't have intention to move to Australia now, perhaps I plan to move in next 3 to 4 years. When is the time for me to apply for my application?
Right. Well, this is a good question. And I do understand why, people is asking this question, given the current scenario. But I think what you need to be aware of is if you decided to move over next year to Australia, it is not possible because an application takes at least 2 years, from the initial meeting to, checking your eligibility, to submit, to go through the Queensland State Government approval, to then go through the federal government's assessment until, you get an approval. This takes at least 2 years. And even right after the approval, you're not required to move over right away. So in general, if you are very certain about your objective and you meet the requirements and you put in the application and plan ahead for a period, for a timing of 2 to 4 years before you need to be in Australia. And by having said that, a lot of the programs require you or your spouse, either one of you, to be residing in Australia. And it is not the entire family members. So I hope that answers your question.
Okay.
And I think I wanted to take this opportunity to just to get the Queensland State Government to advise majority of the people out there. I'm not sure if you pick up this question, but I wouldn't want to miss out this opportunity. And I think some of the clients who qualify for 132 are ready to put in the submission, are ready to proceed with the 132. But because a few months back, there are news that talks about 132, the PR pathway is very likely going to be suspended by the Australian government. And they are in the dilemma of whether or not they should put in the application or they are not. Can we have Cynthia and Marney to enlighten us about this question?
Yeah, Desmond, I think the question you guys discussing is very good. A lot of people, they doesn't matter from Malaysia or other countries, they may not be financially ready to move to Australia at this stage. So they think, I want to wait for another 2 or 3 years to apply for the visa. We understand that most people want to migrate to Australia for their children's education in the future or for their better family life in Australia. But as Desmond mentioned earlier, the visa policy changes every year. So the threshold for each visa category will just go high and high. So if you're currently eligible for your particular visa, normally Desmond and his team will help you to work out which visa pathway will suit you best. Then you choose the best visa options. But if you're eligible, I would suggest get ready, apply as soon as possible. One is because the visa policy will change every year, it will just become more and more difficult. And when you age, people getting older and older, you lose some age points for 180 visa, being innovation stream, investment stream. So some people in their 50s, and when they come to us, they already passed 55, past age limit. Then you have to seek age waive, which will require you to make more investment. Then you don't have such money to increase the investment level. So that's all the issues. And the other issue is Desmond mentioned about 132 visa. It has been rumored around for a long time for 132 visa to be abolished. At this stage, we don't know whether it will be abolished or not, but definitely it could change the criteria. So that means the investment level will be increased or the assets level will be increased. So if you are country ready, you better apply now, because in the future it will be more difficult for you.
And sorry, I'm just social distancing, trying to stay away 1.5 meters from but I just really want to reiterate what Cynthia has said. You know, if you're eligible now, I touched on it in the presentation. As soon as we open, you should put your EOI in, so we can look at you for nomination, because the BIP review, the Business Innovation Investment Review, did happen. Home Affairs did have some recommendations, but they are being postponed. So as I mentioned, we may change our criteria, but the main changes that they were looking at implementing, that has been postponed. So that's really good news, probably, for your clients, for you, if you're ready to go for 132.
Yes, this is a good news, and I think that for those who meet the requirements, my answer to this question has always been do it now. And I think given that, you know, the suspension of the parliament at the moment as well, like what Marney has just mentioned, the changes at the federal level is expected to be delayed until, you know, the further notice, or when they find that it is the right time to implement the changes. So do it, you know, and don't miss the boat. Yeah. And I think for those who doesn't get the answer being answered, your question being answered, please just, you see there is you can speak to me for a consultation. If you wanted to reach out to me, please just type in the chat room by saying 15 minutes, and our team is going to take down your contact number, yeah, and identify who you are. And just all you need, I repeat, all you need to do is just to key in 15 minutes, and our team will, you know, pass me the contact, and I will reach out to you, and I will speak to you right after, you know, this webinar. All right. And I think once again, you know, thank you, Marney, Cynthia, and everyone out there for your time. And I hope that, you know, you guys find this informative, and stay safe and be well. And until we see you again. Thank you.
Desmond, before you go, I noticed there are some people put in the chat a message about one question about the further approval. I think we may not touch it before. I just quickly mentioned about the further investment review board. So just recently they announced, you know, all the foreign investment had to be approved by the third. So some people are concerned if they will delay their investment. This is actually just another step you have to do when you make investment in Australia. Previously, you know, threshold for foreign investment review is very high. It had to be 200 million, more than 200 million, but now they dropped zero. This means that even if you make 100,000 investment in Australia to purchase business, you have to get a further approval. But that's just a step. You have to lodge the application. Currently, we're talking about the application taking maybe 1 month to 6 months to be approved. But my understanding for residential property purchase, it will not be that part of this approval. But we can check. You can check the third website to get the details. I think this is just temporary measure. Once this COVID-19 crisis is over, I believe it will be lifted. Because in the past, only foreign investment with, you know, state government companies, their investment had to get approved. Private investment, normally you don't have to go through these steps. But that does not mean we don't want investment. It's just more cautious, because at one stage there's a lot of foreign companies. They are large corporation companies. They purchase assets in Australia, which causes some of the national interest. So that's why the federal government put in its new measure to stop some of the influx of the takeover of the foreign Australian assets. But I think this will change. Yeah. And so, another question, quick mention, when you talk about the application. So if you're ready, we encourage you to make the application as soon as possible. The other issue Marney also mentioned briefly before about the Queensland nomination quota. Each state government have limited quota every year. And the federal government, if you see the historical data,
the quota every year for business investment visa has dropped significantly compared with other visas. So with a limited number for business investment visas, if you want to get this visa, you just have to be quick. Otherwise, you lose opportunities. So Queensland, we have our quota increase every year, but still we can't cope with the demand. So we have more and more people interested to come to Queensland. So the earlier you lodge your application, if you're ready, the earlier you get a chance to be nominated. Queensland nomination process is very quick. We normally just once you submit an UI, we pick up the UI next working day, and we give you 2 weeks to respond to lodge your documents, which is just application form, your business proposal, and assets and the liability statement. We don't have to see evidence because the federal government will check out your evidence for financials. But when you come to us, it's very straightforward information. Mainly we look at the big business investment, which should be genuine, community for Queensland, and realistic. And once we nominate you, once you receive your documentations, we process it within 2 weeks. So with the Queensland nomination, it's a very streamlined process. So you don't have to concern about the long delay or whatever. But once we nominate you, you only have 2 months to lodge your visa application. So that's what I would suggest always. Before you come to Queensland or you lodge your EOR, make sure all your financials get audited, all your paperwork is done. Then you ask for nomination, and then it will be very straightforward the process. So you don't have to worry about too much delay. Then you just wait for the visa to be processed. All the Malaysia visa application will be processed in Adelaide, which is relatively quicker than Greater China region clients visa to be processed in Hong Kong, because that's the bulk of it comes from. So previously, lucky people get 3 to 4 months get a visa result, but now just because too many applications that have been delayed to 1 year and 18 months, even 2 years. But that's all depends on paperwork. If your paperwork is very good quality, no more questions to be answered, to be asked, no additional documents to be provided, then maybe the first 10 months you just queue in the line. Then when it's your turn to be processed, it will be quick. So again, working closely with your migration agents and accountants or other professional service providers to help you, get your paperwork in good quality. That will help you improve your chance to get your visa with positive result.
Thank you, Cynthia, for your advice. So as you know, the Queensland government has filled up their quota for this fiscal year. So the next quota is likely going to be opened up only in July. And it will be, given the current lockdown, there are certain preparation work that we could start or initiated first. And to make sure that at least your eligibility is being assessed to know if you could move forwards or not. And if you meet the requirements, then we can put all the paperwork together and get ready when the quota is opened up. And as what Queensland government has just mentioned, a very little quota has now been given to the respective states, and they are also going to be very selective and be very careful in terms of deciding the nomination, who to approve to and all, and get an advice and get this prepared in advance so that, in July, you are ahead of the queue to get the submission done. Yeah. Thank you. And Sam, what is next?
So for now, I just want thanks for 3 of you for your time, and thanks for all the participants who put their time and attend to this webinar together. For those who we didn't respond to your question, we will catch up with you after the webinar. And if you want to have the 15-minute session, please write it. And once more, if you want to know any more detail, you can reach out to me with the number on the screen. And if you need the 15-minute consultation with Desmond, again, go through the number, WhatsApp or call. We will come back to you soonest. But thanks for all, and have a good day ahead.
Yeah, stay safe and stay healthy, everyone. Yeah, and thanks again.
Thank you very much.
Desmond. It's lovely working with you.
Thank you, Desmond.
Thanks.
Thank you, team.
Thanks, Marney. Thanks, Cynthia. And talk to you.
See you later.
See you later.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.